76.
Hello and welcome along to episode 27 of the Tennis Asia podcast. And on this show, plenty of things to get through. We'll talk about Madrid, principally another big win for Moyuka Uchijima. We will talk about what Alex Eala did next after Miami. We'll touch upon a big tournament for the women in Tokyo and also a little touch on the Korean Challenger swing. And joining me to guide us through this is a man who enjoys his Pepsi almost as much as Coleman Wong. It is Mr. Tennis Asia himself, Eddie McGee. Eddie, how are you?
Very good. Coleman likes his Pepsi apparently as much as Yosuke Watanuki does, because that was actually him that got famous first. And I think actually since he asked for a Pepsi, he seemingly got a sponsorship from Pepsi. We could touch on that a little bit later, but
that seems to be the trend. I know that the French player who Harriet Dart was extremely rude to was trying to get a deodorant sponsorship as well. She a Dove sponsorship. Not sure if it came out, but that's
obviously we're going to be talking about Madrid. I'm just a little bit concerned about the fact that the play is just completely stopped there because we've just seen this almost, I think, nationwide power outage.
Right.
So that's throw a bit of a spanner into the works. But before we get into that, I guess we need to talk about Moyuka.
Yeah, we will. I mean, obviously, we've talked about Moyuka Uchijima a lot over the past year. Her big rise last year, and of course, the hard task of maintaining that once you get to a certain level and you're playing the better players week in, week out. Well, she's back on European clay. She's on a winning streak in Madrid. She's into the last 16 off the back of a straight sets win over Jessica Pegula, who admittedly was out of sorts, but nevertheless, it's a first win over a currently top ranked or top 25 ranked player.
Yeah, and obviously, first top 20 win and then first top 10 win as well. Obviously, Pegula, the third seed in Madrid. And I think Pegula was out of sorts. And maybe that result, the one-sidedness of it is somewhat surprising. But obviously, it's coming just after a good win from behind for Uchijima against Ons Jabeur. And we can't say that Uchijima hasn't been playing well recently. And I did sort of have a feeling that she would be able to get some results here. I think the conditions in Madrid, I think she is very competent on clay. I think, though, the Madrid altitude, which causes the ball to fly a little bit, is actually beneficial for her game. And she even said that herself, that seems to suit her. And this is the first time she's got into the last 16 of the Madrid Open. She's supposed to be playing against Alexandrova, Ekaterina Alexandrova, who's the 21st seed, later today. I'm not sure if that match will get done, obviously, with the power outage going on. It's a very strange situation. But anyway, going back, this year, we maybe haven't talked about it too much. It's been a while since we've done a podcast, but let's think about some of the results that she had this year. At the Australian Open, she got to the second round, beat Lynette in the first round, and then took Mira Andreeva to a final set tiebreak, which the tiebreak finished 10-8. So that was a really close one. And obviously, Andreeva has been, one of the players of the year so far. And last year, she had that great run on the ITF swing, winning so many matches, including two 100 titles on clay, and ultimately, finished with her qualifying for the French Open and then actually, even winning a match in the first round and then losing to Sabalenka. But, it's been last year was maybe her, she made the progress onto the WTA Tour, and it's taken a little bit of time for her to sort of adjust to the level there. Yeah. And I think also just to be able to just, sort of realize how effective her own game can be.
Mhm.
You maybe don't really realize how well you can play until you play some of these better players, and you realize you've got a certain level that you maybe didn't know you had. And yeah, I think that's sort of something that's I think is coming with her game. And two, tie breaks. She took Fernandez to in Abu Dhabi. Just
Right.
looking through some of the results, and then she qualified for Dubai, another 1,000 event, and then beat Ostapenko in straight sets in the first round. But then also followed that up in Indian Wells with a win straight sets over Emma Raducanu, and then also
Right.
pushing Coco Gauff to a final set tiebreak. So, based on that, I mean, these are not exactly results. These are very competitive matches that she's putting in against good players. So, I felt like coming into clay season, I think she's got a bit more of an advantage there with the way that she plays. She's got good
Yeah.
power in her game, and that forehand she is actually able to dictate and dominate at times, even against good players now. And she just got to a quarterfinal WTA 250 quarterfinal in Rouen. And then Madrid here, obviously coming through Montgomery, Jobber, and Pegula.
Mhm.
It's impressive, and she's probably not feeling too much pressure right now. I mean, she was having to defend quite a lot of points from the clay swing last year, but she goes into this match against Alexandrova, who, yeah, it's going to be a really tough match, I would imagine, because Alexandrova's actually been on top form this year. I mean, she's beaten some big players. She just came through Kasatkina as well.
Right.
Um, Alexandrova, yeah,
And Danilovic, who I think beat Uchijima in Rouen last week.
yeah, and she would right. And Alexandrova, she's made the semis in Stuttgart. She beat Pekula and Andreeva, and she's also had wins over Zheng and
Mhm.
and earlier against Sabalenka, wasn't it, in one of the earlier
Right.
tournaments? So yeah, I mean, she's obviously in a good place with her game at the moment, but she's not. I don't think clay is her best surface, and I think that gives Uchijima perhaps a bit of an opportunity here. And she, as I say, Uchijima's not going to have that pressure, and I say it's an exciting time, more generally for Japanese women's tennis, because it's not only Uchijima. There's a few other players coming through at the moment, and that's obviously going to be
Right.
exciting. And we'll maybe talk about that a bit later, because obviously Japan is as well. They got through to the Billie Jean King Cup finals, which will be
Right.
held in Shenzhen in the autumn. So, yeah, that's something to look forward to. But yeah, I think
That's a
Uchijima.
tricky one for you, isn't it? Because I believe it's the same week as the Seoul WTA, so that's a bit of a
Uh,
dilemma. Short plane ride or a short subway ride.
well, I mean, yeah. Let's see how whoever lets us in.
Oh yeah,
Maybe that's where I'll
that's
go.
that's one way. That's
but
one way to look at it.
yeah, I mean, either event though would be great if we could attend it. But yeah, I think that's obviously. I mean, going back to Uchijima, I mean, clay season. This is actually an opportunity for her, perhaps. I mean, even it might just come
Mm.
in this tournament, it might not, but I think she's maybe going to turn a few more heads, perhaps. We've still obviously got the Rome tournament, and then obviously the French Open itself. So yeah, I think she's got some opportunities. Perhaps draw dependent to go on a few runs here, and it's definitely one to look forward to.
Um, we'll come back to Madrid in just a moment, and we'll go through some of the others. Not hugely encouraging results from a lot of players from around the region in Madrid. We will come back to it in a moment, though. First of all, our last podcast we focused mainly on the exploits of Alex Eala in Miami, and quite super exploits they were as well. So, what did Alex Eala do next? Well, she went to the 125 in Portugal. She was actually the number one seed there, I think. She came through the first round in straight sets against Anouk Kovermans, I think it was, of the Netherlands. She then ran into Panna Udvardi of Hungary, a player who has been in the top 100. There were two tight sets. She came out just narrowly on the wrong side of both of them.
Yeah. And, I didn't have particularly much expectation on Eala going into that tournament, just because that was the first clay tournament of the year, and then we know that it doesn't really suit her game as well as the hard courts. I mean, she does admit that herself, right? She prefers out of the surfaces the hard courts. I mean, that's what she grew up on, but then mostly, but the way she plays, and she has a much flatter ball. She doesn't hit a spinny ball, and she tries to be aggressive and sort of take the ball early, but you got to play a little bit differently on the clay. So, and yeah, I did wonder. I thought that Udvardi match would be tight, and it did turn out to be so, because Udvardi is a more experienced clay court player. But yeah, her being able to get through a first round and then obviously lose there, then I don't think that's too bad. But then she goes on to Madrid, obviously takes that wild card again, and yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be easy with this sort of extra expectation. I mean, she doesn't seem like the type that sort of does get too weighed down by it. And to be honest, she has been carrying this pressure, I think maybe beyond what a lot of people in the tennis world realize, in that, she's had a lot of attention just being, ever since she won the junior US Open, and obviously being, a student at the Rafa Nadal Academy. That got a lot of Filipinos excited, and obviously a big country as well. So yeah, obviously this Miami run, it's gone to an absolutely huge level now. But
and it had to be scripted in Madrid, didn't it, as well? That obviously she swatted aside Tomova in the opening round, and then we all obviously it had to happen. She had to play Iga again, and she put up a very, very good showing. I think after that first set, a lot of us were thinking, could it happen again? I think Iga might have been thinking, could it happen again?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, yeah, the fact that she came through the first round in straight sets as she did, you would think maybe with that added pressure, it was going to be, she might have felt that a bit too much, but I thought she played really well, and executed really well. Was aggressive, and she maybe got vulnerable on serve. She got broken, but then she came back and was very strong. And yeah, I really liked how she was playing aggressively, and then she was showing some nice touches as well. She's good on the drop shots, and then yeah, job done. Then you go through and play Swiatek, and maybe pressure's off a little bit, but yeah, it was impressive how she was actually able to take that first set against Swiatek. And yeah, I think Swiatek was not at her best, let's say, of course, but I mean, she was probably feeling a bit of pressure as well, because she obviously lost pretty badly to Eala in Miami. And it's funny because, obviously Swiatek was present at Eala's graduation from the Rafa Nadal Academy. And, I've heard Eala saying that, when that happened, she said, Swiatek said to Eala, I'll see you around on the tour. And
next time I see you, I'll be across the net. Yeah.
Yeah, she probably didn't think she'd be meeting her in the quarterfinal of Miami so soon, and then beaten in straight sets. And then obviously, yeah, first set in Madrid, that was 3 sets in a row. Eala's won against Swiatek. You're thinking, wow, can she actually get it done? And to be honest, like, it was pretty competitive, and it felt like, up until the latter point of the second set, it felt like Eala was in it. And then, but I felt like, yeah, Swiatek did start to find her for a game again, and she's much more adept on the clay courts, and she has that heavy ball, which makes it much more difficult for Eala to impose her own game. Because Eala is a player that, and I think one of the things that she's got better at recently is actually when she's defending, she has a bit more speed, a bit more strength. and she's able to get a few more balls back that allows her to get into some of these rallies that she maybe would not have been able to do in the past so much. I think that's been a development in her game. But yeah, it's going to be much more difficult to do that against a player like Swiatek if she's in form and she's able to use that power and rush you. But yeah, I think with Eala, even though she lost that second set and Swiatek was really sort of pulling away in that final set, she did keep fighting to the end, and I think with Eala, like it's just it's the ability, more so than her mindset and her mentality that's not going to say holding her back. I'm just saying she's still got a bit to work on in her game. Obviously the serve is a big thing, but I think in terms of sort of her mentality and the way she's able to she plays pretty smart and she's able to perform under pressure. So I think that does bode well as she makes this transition now, as basically as a WTA Tour full timer now. And
of course, she will potentially be playing her first Grand Slam main draw at Roland Garros.
Well, she will be. She's in the main draw. She's on the list. So ranking now. The entry lists are already up. So yeah, she will be playing the French Open, and she will also, I believe, the next tournament she'll play is Rome. So yeah, obviously that's going to be big preparation for her before French Open. But this is all new ground for her, and I think she'll be, enjoying that opportunity.
Yeah. Okay, let's just wrap up. Anything else you want to touch on about Madrid? It hasn't been a hugely successful tournament on either side of the men's or the women's. Disappointing tournament for Zheng Qinwen, for instance.
Yeah, Zhang Qinwen, she's in a bit of a rut at the moment. I mean, you'd have to say another straight sets lost to Potapova, and disappointing. And then you've also got a loss there for Rybakina. She did come through against Andreescu in straight sets, but then lost in straight sets to Svitolina. So yeah, and that's going to be, I mean, perhaps that might work in Uchijima's favor, because there's a potential, if Uchijima does get through her match, she would potentially play Svitolina or Sakkari in that quarterfinal. So, she probably would rather play them than Rybakina. So, well, this is, I mean, I think Zhang, I mean, she does have her coach back now. It's going to, I don't know whether she's still got, like, she seems to still have an issue as well with her arm or elbow as well. So I don't know if this is still an issue that's ongoing, but she's, the clay season, I think, is a place that, this should be the time now is when she should be taking up.
Right. It should be her time of the year. Yeah.
Yeah, and well, I suppose at Madrid it's maybe a little bit different, the conditions, but should we really want to get some results in Rome? And yeah, it's definitely concerning if you're a Zhang fan. And yeah, I mean, looking at the men's side, we also had the return of Kei Nishikori, which was definitely positive. I mean, yeah, because obviously we know his injuries, troubles, and he'd had to skip a few tournaments recently. But he got a win, and it was a hard-fought win against Vukic in 3 sets, and he did play well, some good performance, but then, it was fairly convincingly beaten by Shapovalov in the second round. So Shapovalov getting his revenge after Hong Kong. I think that was when Shapo was not well in Hong Kong, and he lost to Nishikori. So yeah, and then, or was it? Actually, I'm not sure if that was the case. Was it? Did he play? Yeah, it was Shapovalov. He played Nishikori in Hong Kong, right? Yeah, I remember. Yes. It was right.
You were there.
Yes, I was getting confused there for a second. No, that was definitely correct. So yeah, obviously that's. But I mean, I suppose it's good that Nishikori is just back healthy
Sure.
and being able to play. Alexander Bublik, of course, represents Kazakhstan. He's actually on a bit of a tear because he's come through against Mikkelsen, Popperin, and Rublev, and is going to play a
Rublev.
4th round against Jakub Menšik.
That was I mean, I didn't see any of the game. I just saw the score. It was a really weird one. 6-4, love 6, 6-4.
Yeah, but I mean, Rublev is struggling a bit at the moment. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't actually watch that match, but I've just heard that it was a bit of a disaster from the Rublev point of view. But yeah, I mean, for Bublik though to go through play Menšik, going to be very, very tough, I think. And probably I would favor Menšik to get through that one, but who knows? And then yeah, so main thing to look forward to, I think, Madrid though, from a Tennis Asia perspective, is clearly how Uchijima is going to be doing.
All eyes on Uchijima, so long as they can get the lights back on. We'll keep an eye out on what's going on there. Now we need to talk about more Japanese women. There was an ITF. I should have thought about how to phrase that actually, but there was an ITF 100 event in Tokyo this past week. It concluded on Sunday with a Tennis Asia Bowl final between Ina Shibahara and the up-and-comer Wakana Sonobe. The former actually having beaten podcast sweetheart Ito Ai in the semi-finals. It went actually both those matches. They went the distance. Talk us through Tokyo.
So yeah, so this little back-to-back W100 events in Japan. We've got Tokyo just completed, and Gifu is the next one. And yeah, it was turned out to be great for the Japanese players, but in particular, the winner of the tournament, Wakana Sonobe, who we have talked about before a few episodes ago, when she got those wins, when she qualified for it was a WTA 1000 event, right? And she qualified and beat Yuan Wei, and that was obviously massive. I mean, she's only just made that transition to the pros. I mean, she's barely 17. She just won the Australian Open girls tournament at the start of this year. And yeah, I mean, already she's won this 100 tournament. Obviously very impressive. And she's come through some decent players. Zhu Lin in the second round, former player. I think she's been as high as 31 in the world. Ariane Hartono in the quarterfinals is a player that's well established at this level. Talia Gibson of Australia in the semi-finals in straight sets, and then she had to play Ina Shibahara in the final, and it turned out to be a very good match. End up finishing 6-4, 6-7, 6-3 to Sonobe. Yeah, I mean, Shibahara is actually the finalist in Tokyo last year. So a bit sad for her to finish runner-up 2 years in a row, but Shibahara has been so good recently, especially for Japan and Davis Cup, and she plays good tennis, and she's got a good variety in her game, and she's got that competitive edge, I think, honed from the US college circuit, and it comes out when she plays at the for the national team. And yeah, she put in a great shift here, but just ultimately I felt like Sonobe at only 17 she's just the weapons there that are very hard to deal with. She's got such power on that left forehand that just seems so easy, like easy power. And she can sort of redirect it as well very easily, the angles, and she's got a good backhand as well. But the forehand particularly is the one that's doing damage. And this, especially Sonobe, has got to be getting Japanese tennis fans excited, because I talked earlier about Billie Jean King Cup. Japan's in the finals. I think it's going to be a good selection headache for Ai Sugiyama as captain, because you've got Shibahara here playing very well. She can also play doubles, And then you've got Ito, who, yeah, she also, as I said, did very well in this tournament. She got to the semi-finals. She lost out to Shibahara, but again in a tight match. That one went to a tiebreak in the final set. She came through convincingly against Heather Watson in the quarterfinal. Yeah, that was straight set 6-3, 6-3. And that was also from a breakdown in the first set. I watched it and she was just in full flow. Just, she's got that, variety in her game and sort of, the quick thinking. And it must be so frustrating for a player like Watson when she's just sort of getting, toyed with, I would say, sort of like with the drop shots and, the change of pace and just sort of, it almost looks too easy at times because it's sort of almost casual the way that she plays. But so another good tournament for her, and she'll be cracking the top 100 probably for the first time. And then you've also got them all continuing in Gifu, which is coming up.
Yeah, it's Sonobe has Bektas in the first round, so pretty tough one. Then potentially Madison Inglis in the second round, so could be again a fascinating tournament here.
Yeah, and just sort of a Heather Watson returns there.
Yes.
But yeah, number 2 seed there is Rebecca Marino, and then number 3 seed is Mananchaya Sawankao, who has shown how good she can be as well. The player from Thailand, another one trying to get into the top 100, and perhaps she can do it. And yeah, I was tweeted earlier about how promising a lot of these young players are for Japan, because it's not only Ito and Sonobe, you've also got Sarah Saito there.
I was going to say, don't forget Sarah Saito. You were scolded for that earlier.
Yeah, and then also Sayaka Ishii, who's actually been drawn against Ina Shibahara in the first round. So perhaps that could be a little bit of an upset on Shibahara. And then you've also got Zhang Shuai in the draw, Tara Rudi of Thailand. So all the Asian talents here competing. And it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top at the end of it all. And
nice little back-to-back tournaments in Tokyo and Gifu. Speaking of back-to-back tournaments, we did have over the past week or past 2 weeks the short career challengers swing. They actually ended in double Australian victories, which I know you're always really mad keen on. Adam Walton in Busan and Jason Kubler in Gwangju. I think for us, we were sort of focused on the slow and steady rise back up the rankings of Chung Hyeon. He got to the quarterfinals in both Busan and Gwangju. What did you make of him, and what did you make of the tournaments?
Yeah, so I think it's a mixed bag for Chung, but overall, it has been very positive, I would say, considering, people were thinking basically his career was over last year, and obviously when he returned to the ITF and Challengers last year, it did not go well. And obviously this year we talked about how he's powered through the ITFs and won so many matches there. Probably showing that he is too good for that level, but there's always going to be question marks how he's going to do when he steps up to the challenger level. Started off very well because he won straight sets against Emil Rusevori, who's on his own comeback path at the moment, and maybe he's struggling a bit, but I think that was a significant win for him to beat Rusevori in the challenger, and then come through a tough match against Lee Tu, who of course is you can show how good he can be. I mean, Lee Tu, the US Open, he pushed Carlos Alcaraz, he took a set off him. Chung came back from a set down, and he
little bit of revenge for Seoul last year.
That's right. He lost to Seoul in Seoul, the challenger last year, and I mean, it was high quality stuff from Chung in the end, because he went down a set and then he just sort of powered through. He went up 5 love in the second set, finished 6-3, but then came back strong, competitive final set against two. And, you know, when he's still a really good athlete, he's really fast. And, you know, I think he got much leaner than he used to be, which probably helps him, you know, avoid as many injuries and you know, helps his speed and sharpness. And yeah, I mean, he's still very strong in that respect. And, but like, you know, his backhand at times is just ridiculous. The serve though it was been a bit of an issue. It's been inconsistent, and you know, and he came up against Kubler in the quarterfinal in Busan, and yeah, like Kubler, you know, he's a good player. He's much better than his ranking is at the moment, and Kubler actually went on to win Gwangju. He's just won Gwangju, right? So yeah, so you know, Chung went on to Gwangju. Came through in straight sets against Lestienne and James Trotter, which were you know, pretty good wins for him. But then, you know, didn't play well. I mean, maybe the score is slightly harsh, 6-3, 6-1 against Schoolkate, but I felt like, you know, he was struggling a bit on serve, and you know, just wasn't quite at it. And then now just moving on to Guangzhou. Challenger, he came in, he has to qualify because his ranking, he obviously got wild cards in Korean events, but and then lost pretty badly to Philippe Pileo, who is a player that he, you know, would definitely be favored to beat. But that one, he just looked off. I mean, I don't know if something was up physically. We'd hope not, but I think it more just looked like he was just off it on this day. And you know, it wasn't just the serve; it was just the errors that were coming were not, you know, even in his state now that you'd expect him to be making. So I wonder if he's maybe just a little bit burnt out, because obviously he's played quite a lot of tennis actually this year.
And his body isn't going to be used to this kind of schedule.
Yeah, because
week out. So
it wouldn't have been long for him between he played the Friday quarterfinal in Gwangju in Korea, and then going to Guangzhou in China, and just playing that was yesterday and Sunday.
On Sunday,
so it's maybe not that much time to adjust, right? So he maybe the little break now, because he's going to be entered into qualies in Wuxi, which would, you know, that qualifying will start on Sunday, so he's got a bit of time probably just to probably practice a bit more in Guangzhou, and hopefully, you know, he'd be able to find his groove again. But yeah, obviously that tournament is going on in Guangzhou, and you know, some of the same faces are playing again.
Just a word before we move on to Guangzhou. Just a word on the lesser spotted Kwon Sonu and his buzz cut. He got through against the regular on the tour on this part of the world, Antoine Escoffier. He got through a 3-setter in Busan against Escoffier before I think coming unstuck in the second round. Again, right, yeah, so a 3-setter, I think it was.
Yeah, so Kwon Sonu of Korea, of course, who is currently doing his 18-month mandatory military service, but is able to play domestic events, and if needed, he can play in the Davis Cup or the, you know, team events for Korea. Busan got a good win against Escoffier, and I thought he might do okay actually, because even though he's not been playing on the tour, they do have some domestic events in Korea, and I read that he won an event and beat some of the other Korean pros, because you know, he plays for like the what they call Sangmu, right? The
army team, yeah,
the army team, right? So, and then they compete against the other regions. So like players in Korea,
like city hall teams and provincial teams, yes.
Yeah. So he, I think he won the singles, and then he came runner up in the doubles. But I think it might have been because I think he was playing doubles with Hong Sung Chan, but because he's in the army as well, right? So, but I think they lost, or maybe they pulled out. But anyway, yeah, the point is, you know, he'd come in with some competitive tennis under his belt, and he was, came in pretty well, because he pushed Uchiyama to 3 sets in Busan, but you know, ultimately lost. And and then lost to Kubler, which was the eventual champion. So perhaps a little bit, he's been pretty good, but maybe not quite at the level to. It's always going to be difficult when you're not playing often, So,
Sure.
so yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he makes any more appeal. Well, obviously you got the Seoul Challenger. I think that's going to be in autumn at the end of October. And then actually before that, the Davis Cup, which will be played in Korea against Kazakhstan. So it'll be interesting to see if he makes an appearance then. I expect he will do, and it'll be perhaps maybe Chung will maybe make an appearance because he's going to be not be long until
Yes,
he's
yeah.
getting like he's going to be Korean number 2 or 3. I think he's 3 at the moment, but he's not far behind Jarek and Lee, and he probably will overtake him if he can keep fit.
Sure. Okay. We'll look ahead to what's going on. Well, we'll start looking ahead really for what's going on this week now, and we often hear it said, drop down a level, get some match practice, get some minutes on the court. We've heard this said about Emma Raducanu recently. We've also heard it directed towards Naomi Osaka. And this week, Osaka is doing exactly that. She's playing the 125 on clay in Saint Malo in France. It's a field that does look a very 125y kind of field. Osaka will enter as the second seed. McCartney Kessler, I think, is the number 1 seed. Yuan Wei is there as well as 8th seed. The mighty have fallen in that regard. Osaka will start in the round of 32 on Tuesday. She's got Petra Marchenko in the first round. Big bonus for people attending the St. Malo tournament in France.
Yes. Now, Osaka, she played in Madrid, lost the first round to Bronzetti. So, obviously not ideal. And, I respect her for going for, choosing to step down and use that time and play the 125 event. She obviously is serious and she wants to do well at the French Open. So, she's got to try and get those matches under her belt, and it's not going to be easy on a surface that, she struggles to move on so well. Drawn against Marchenko, not bad for the first round, potentially Diane Parry in the second round. But what struck my eye, though, is in the quarterfinals, she could play against Victoria Mboko of Canada, who is 18-year-old player, but a massive talent. Won so many matches this year. Actually, going back to Shibahara, Mboko played against her at the Billie Jean King Cup tie. Mboko just won, I think, in the third set, and actually Shibahara was in tears because she thought maybe obviously fought hard
blown it for Japan, yes.
But Shibahara actually went to she got drawn in to play doubles actually. A bit of a change up, and then they ended up winning. So it was happy days in the end for her. But Mboko, serious talent, and she opens against Gideki. So it'll be interesting to see who comes out there. And on that, you mentioned Yuan Wei. She's the 8th seed. She could actually be playing against her compatriot in the second round because Wei Sijia is there. So a few Asian players there. The number 1 seed is McCartney Kessler. Priscilla Hon's there in the draw as well, as is Katie Volanets. So interesting little draw, and perhaps an opportunity for Osaka to get matches under her belt. And who knows? Could she go and take the title?
I don't know, but
it's been a while since she's been able to do that. So let's see.
What else is going on this week? I know Coleman Wong and Hadi Habib are in Ostrava. I know we're focused more on Gifu. Anything else going on this week? Obviously, the Guangzhou Challenger is the main thing from our point of view.
Yeah, well, there's also Challengers, the 175 events. There's one in Aix-en-Provence, but there's no, Asian men competing there. The same in Estoril, which is in Portugal. The qualifiers are just going on now, though, and I don't think there was any Asian men in the main draw, but there is in the qualifiers, so there could be some that make it through. Manas Damne, the young Indian talent who trains at the Piatti Tennis Center in Italy. There was actually like a pre-qualifying tournament to play the qualifying, and he came through that.
Okay.
But he's just lost to Denis Yevseyev of Kazakhstan 6-love 6-3. So getting a bit of a lesson there, I think. But yeah, Babit Zhukayev is there also of Kazakhstan. So he's a potentially could get through. And yeah, as far as I'm pretty sure there's no other Asian players there. But obviously the 100 event we mentioned before, ITF 100 in Gifu, that's going to be another big thing for us, as well as Guangzhou. Yosuke Watanuki is playing in Guangzhou. He'll be, I think he's drawn against Li Tu though, right?
Okay.
Which I don't think either player is going to be particularly happy about. I mean, that could be a tough first round match, and Watanuki really, I mean, he's one of the most exciting players to watch really in the way he plays. Evolved men's tennis, but and probably should be a top 100 player. He's just had unfortunately some injuries. So he was up at 77 in the world, I think, and yeah, that's going to be interesting first round match for whoever gets to watch that. I mean, in Guangzhou as well, you got Zhao Yi, who's the young player that does seem to have a lot of potential, but he's just not struggled to get many good results. But perhaps this is an opportunity for him.
Okay. So plenty to get stuck into this week. Any other business this evening?
I think that's it for now. I mean, all eyes on Madrid. Will the power come back on? Will there even be tennis played today? Let's hope that there will be. If not,
fingers crossed. Yes. If not, we'll just have to focus on Gifu and Guangzhou the rest of the week. Eddie, thank you very much for your time as ever, and enjoy your tennis this week.
Cheers.
Thank you.